Pit Boss versus Traeger Pellet Grill, which one should you buy? Hey, this is Ricer from Dead Broke Barbecue, Wisconsin, and welcome back to the channel. But if you're new here, we try to help you enhance and amplify your backyard barbecue fun. Now, if you've been watching this channel long enough, you know that I am not a brand person, but I picked these two models so we could do a comparable price comparison. Some of you watching this video are just like me. You want to find a pit that works for you best. So grab a notepad and a pen, Rusty. We're gonna amplify some backyard barbecue fun.
Mortal Kombat. It has begun.
To do an honest comparison on these pits and not just a hack job, I had to obviously cook on both of them. I've had the Pit Boss 1600 for 9 months, and for the past month, 99.9% of the cooks I've done has come off the 780 from Traeger. As far as cooking, both of them have done fantastic, and I've cooked low and slow and grilled on both of them. But before I start this comparison, I want to thank every single one of you that have joined the Dead Broke Barbecue Nation, either a Patreon or the membership. And if you haven't already, make sure you join the Dead Broke Barbecue Nation over on Facebook. The assembly, it's pretty comparable on both pits. Just the 1600 has a little bit more to put together. The Pit Boss 1600 has 1600 square inches of cooking space. And you have 3 shelves or 3 cooking levels. You have your full grate on the bottom, then you got a 3/4 grate in the middle, and a 1/2 grate on top. With that being said, you don't have a tremendous amount of room in between each one of these shelves. If you wanted to do a ton of ribs, yes, it'll work. But if you put a brisket down here, you're not gonna be able to get this rack in. Unless it's just a brisket flat, and then you possibly can do it. The Traeger 780 obviously only has 780 square inches of cooking space. It has 2 cooking levels, one full on the bottom, and then just 1/3 shelf on top. The 1600 has a 32-pound pellet hopper, and the Traeger 780 has an 18-pound hopper. Both of these pellet grills have an easy way to dump out or change your pellets. When it comes to build quality, the Pit Boss 1600 is made out of 14 gauge steel. The Traeger 780, only 16 gauge steel. The 1600 has poly wheels and casters, and they're great for on concrete, but if you're rolling it across the damp grass, you might be cutting into it a little bit. On the Traeger, the back wheels are kind of made out of a composite plastic rubber, but the front ones are poly. The legs on these pits, they're very sturdy. They don't rock around when you're moving them across your garage or your patio. On the 780, after you get the 2 bottom supports put on, it stiffens it right up. And on the 1600, well, that bottom shelf, that makes that thing solid as a rock too. When it comes to shelves, the Traeger 780 only has the lid on the hopper that you can use to put any of your meat on top of there or your cutting board. Yes, you can order one online, but come on, put it in the box, Traeger. Really? A little side shelf? 10 bucks. On the 1600, we have the side shelf. We have the hopper, which we can use as a shelf. And we have this nice little front shelf, but I don't use this a lot because this engraving part here, when food gets in there, it's a real pain to clean. Like I said earlier, the 1600 has a bottom shelf, and you can go ahead and store some of your barbecue supplies under there. Both of these pits have very solid handles. They both have a nice handle on the lid and a nice side handle so you can wheel it around a lot easier. The lid on the 1600 is a double-walled, non-insulated, but it does have this nice little seal, and that helps keep this a little bit more tight, and you're not getting a lot of smoke escaping through that lid. The Traeger 780, it only has your standard 16 gauge lid. You can grill on the Traeger 780, but it doesn't have a sear plate. I will say that I don't actually use the sear plate on the 1600 a lot. When I sear something on a pellet grill, I either use my grill grates or a cast iron pan. I feel that you have a lot more control over that sear compared to some wildfire coming out of that fire pot. But with that being said, on the 1600, having this sear plate is just an extra bonus. When it comes to low and slow cooking, I will say that the 780, because it doesn't have that actual sear plate in here, I felt that I wasn't getting any residual heat right above the fire pot because there's no fins like that sear plate has. The 780 has a small little heat deflector right above it, and I feel that it disperses the heat a little bit more evenly throughout the chamber. But I'd still want that sear plate if I could get one. As far as the cooking grates themselves, I am way more happier with just your standard grate that the Traeger has on its bottom shelf compared to the Pit Boss 1600's diamond porcelain coated cast iron grates. That bottom ones, I wish they'd just get rid of them. I know the idea behind them is that they're gonna retain some heat, but I actually don't like them at all. Just put in some standard wire grates. Plus they don't fit in there very tight and they shift all over the place when you're moving your product around. Both of these pits have Wi-Fi PID controllers. Since the firmware update on the 1600, it now has 10-degree increments up to 300 degrees. It maxes out at 500, but with the sear plate open, you can get around 600 degrees to help you get higher temps for grilling. The 780 controller works in 5-degree increments up to 500 degrees. I'm really happy with this controller. I love the features that it has. The auger reverse is an awesome feature just in case you end up getting a pellet jam. Now that doesn't happen a lot, but for people that live in a high humidity area, I'm sure you've had a jam up or two. I also like the auger prime feature. I don't empty out completely my pellets a lot, but if I was going to, all I have to do is press that button on that auger and then it'll fill it up to the pot and stop. And then you just hit the ignite button. As far as the Wi-Fi features go, I'm not gonna lie to you, I've never hooked up either of these pits to my phone. I am not a Wi-Fi cook. If I wanna check what my temperature is in the pit or the protein that I'm cooking, I just use my signals. The 1600 also has 4 meat probe ports, which is nice if you have that whole pit loaded up with protein. On the 780, one negative that I have is that there's only one meat probe port on this pit. You are gonna end up running more than just one brisket. Pit Boss's simplified ash cleanup on the 1600. It has a removable fire pot so you can dump out any ash or leftover pellets from your last cook. The 780, well, it doesn't have a removable fire pot. On both of these pits, every 2 or 3 cooks, I do suggest you go ahead and clean out the chamber completely. You want to get out some of that ash and extra grease that didn't make it out into the grease pail. On the 780 from Traeger, it's very simple to strip this down and get inside that chamber to clean it out. For the 1600, it's a lot more work to get inside this pit. The biggest issue is taking off the handle that's connected to the sear plate. You have to take this little handle off, then unclip the rod above the sear plate, and then you can actually pull it out. The porcelain coated cast iron grates, they look really nice, but they're a pain to clean. You can scrape them down, but you never get them completely clean like you do on the wire grates that are in there. That's why I prefer the bottom grate on the 780 over the 1600. Both of these brands are the big box store leaders in the barbecue market. The Traeger 780 is $999. I picked this one up at Home Depot, but you can also find it at other locations. The Pro Series 1600 is $899, and that's an exclusive at Lowe's. But our clear winner is the Pit Boss Pro Series 1600. I do like the Traeger, but I feel that Pit Boss stepped up and brought the best value for your dollar on this 1600. You just get more and better features for less.
Finish him with the Pit Boss fatality.
Well, that's all I got. Roll the nation. Oh yeah, for sure. I'm gonna have Scorpion in there and Sub-Zero. Mortal Kombat style. It's gonna be great.